This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you just email me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure to check out Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. Always putting up new content up at the good old Opperman Report Patreon. There's a new show up there right now with Greg Palast. He contacted me about, he put a new article up on his website, gregpalast.com, about how the Republicans pretty much sabotaged this election by making voter suppression. Okay, it's not the Mike Lindell kind of stuff with, hacking into computers and weird stuff like that. This is legit voter suppression that he documents very carefully. So check that out at gregpalast.com. If you like our show, be sure to check out our Spreaker.com. Every Friday night I do a live show, Spreaker.com. There's a chat room. You get an email notification when I put up new content. And I play repeats there every single night of the week. Our guest today is Matthew Winacott. Matthew Winacott's been around this show for about 11 years. Can't get rid of him. He's been around a long time. He's got this blog called MatthewWinacottGmail.wordpress.com. And check it out. A lot of good content in there, the kind of stuff we cover on this show all the time. There's a couple articles in there called Interview with Ed Opperman, Part 1 and Part 2, about Jim Jones and the, Guyana People's Temple and that whole crazy thing. But a lot of stuff, too, about 9/11 he's got on here. All kinds of interesting stuff here. I'm just glancing through it right now. A lot of great stuff, man. And so, Matthew Winacott, are you there?
I'm here, Ed. How you doing?
Doing good, bro. Doing good. So tell the audience, who is Matthew Winacott?
Well, I'm a paramedic. I work in northern Saskatchewan. I've been interested in this Jim Jones for a long time. I've been a follower of yours, Ed, for a long time. I really appreciate the work that you do. yeah, I'm just trying to investigate some stuff that I find interesting, and one of them being Jim Jones. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
It's really fascinating that you work as like a paramedic or an EMT, I guess they call it down here, because we've been trying to book this all week long, and you don't seem to have a lot of time off, right? You're like always on call with this EMT stuff, with the paramedic stuff?
Yeah, I just worked the past 4 days, and I've had radio on the whole time, but I didn't do anything last night, so that was the only night I didn't do anything. But for the most part, it was the calls up here take a long time, like 3 or 4 hours, because of the driving distances and stuff. There isn't a whole lot of population up here, but they still need the ambulance. So yeah, that's what I've been doing the past few days. Yeah, just talking about Jim Jones here. I kind of got a little biography on him. His name was James Warren Jones, and he was born May 13th in 1930 in Crete, Indiana. His father's name was also Jim Jones. He fought in World War I. He damaged his lungs with mustard gas. A lot of people thought his father was a drunk because he staggered. Without liquor, and there was about 8 or 9 churches or something like that. His father was thought to be a lifelong bachelor, but that was until he met Jim Jones's mother, called Lynetta. She called herself Lynn or Lynette or Lynetta. She changed her name so many times, I guess. She couldn't find her birth certificate or something like that. She was married once, ending in divorce. That first marriage lasted 2 days. And when Jim Jones was a young man, he was called Jimmy. He moved from the Crete farmhouse to a town in Indiana called Lynn. His mother Lynetta worked at a piston ring factory called Perfect Circle. She was supposed to be a union organizer, and told her boss for working a woman to death, I guess. His father was disabled from World War I, and I think I mentioned that already. But his mother wasn't one to cook supper. He was just she just came home and just kind of yelled at Jimmy and Jim. The only woman that he kind of had some mothering from was Mrs. Kennedy. She was next door, and was teaching a school with a sandwich, and that wasn't really enough for him, so he came home hungry. He wasn't allowed to enter into the house until his mother came home, so he went over to Mrs. Kennedy's house, and she had some pie and ate some food. And the way Jim Jones was is that he exaggerated everything. He said that was the best food that he ever tasted in his whole life, and that was the best pie he ever tasted in his whole life. And eventually she invited him to go to churches, one church, I guess. It was an evangelical church.
Wait, so he was introduced to the church through this neighbor, this woman who gave him the pie. She's the one that got him started in these churches?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
She read to him the Bible, and he actually memorized a lot of the Bible and stuff like that. So that's how he got into. He wasn't a Christian in later life. He was an atheist, I guess, and all he believed in was himself. Yeah, he kind of had this narcissistic personality disorder type thing. But he eventually told her that he wanted to try different churches, and she was kind of upset about that. But he would join 5 or 6 different churches in the community. He'd go into one church for 5 minutes, and he'd run to the next church, sitting there for 5 minutes, go to the next church, and he'd do that for the whole hour, basically. When he was a young boy, one student saw him kill a cat with a knife, I guess. And another time, these two boys were in his barn with Jimmy, and they were up on this plank, and all of a sudden Jimmy said the boys got scared. They wanted to get off this plank, and Jimmy was like, I can't move because the angel of death is stopping me from turning back. So these kids almost fell off the plank. It was very high up, I guess.
Let me ask you this, man. What's your source for all this information about the childhood stuff? I've never heard any of this.
I got it from a book called The Road to Jonestown by Jeff Ginn.
Okay.
He does another book about Marilyn Manson. He might be somebody you'd want to have on. He's a pretty good author.
Yeah, I was actually I worked behind the scenes. We were trying to put together a lawsuit against Manson, and I just saw just recently that they dropped the criminal charges against him. And I talked to a lot of his victims, man, like 5 years ago, and I'm shocked that they're not going ahead with these criminal charges. Marilyn Manson was like a real, and he probably still is, man. He's getting away with it. I don't see why he would stop. Guys are doing up to a lot of stuff there, man. So I'll definitely send me the info on this guy here. I'll interview him about the Manson thing and about Jim Jones.
Yeah, for sure. Check him out. I think he was talking about Charles Manson. But from a young age, he read Mein Kampf and The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. He read pretty thick books. And during World War II, the boys would play soldier, and most of them wanted to be Allied soldiers, except one. Jimmy was amazed by the pageantry of the Nazi Party and was mesmerized by the one man leading the masses. And just watching a preacher on stage, he was amazed that there was one person, the guy that was talking and sermonizing, that had all the power. Find this other thing. But let me get that. So he would find small animals, roadkill, and he would have funerals for them. One day, one day he was caught doing this by a former friend, and he's like, "Why are you doing this?" And I guess this friend and Jimmy wanted to become pilots someday. They went to the airport all the time, but he said, "I thought you wanted to be a pilot," and Jimmy just said, "Don't tell anybody about this." He was kind of embarrassed about it. During those war games I was talking about, he got these younger kids to be his soldiers, and if they didn't march like he ordered, he would hit them with a switch. One day he took the local kids into a casket maker and asked them to get inside, and he would shut them in there and keep them in there. And he'd keep repeating this until they got sick of it, or they thought he was weird. And at about age 14, he ran a baseball league. He ran the Lynn team. He loved being the manager in charge. The kids poured over the stats. He kept them in neat columns. If his team would lose the game, he would harangue the team and tell them that they meet hellfire, and he'd start talking like a preacher like that. One day the guys were at Jimmy's when Jimmy lured a pet dog through a trapdoor, which led to the animal falling 20 feet. But still, he still had this kindness toward animals sometimes. So he had this sort of love-hate relationship with animals. But his mother left his father. She'd been having an affair, And from a young age, he saw that his mother was kind of a hypersexual person. That's why I think maybe that's sort of why he became that. So they moved to Richmond, Virginia. He began working at Reed Memorial Hospital as a orderly, and he had this tender, loving care towards patients. He met his wife there, Marcelin, who is, I think, 3 years older than him, 3 or 4 years older than him. He was 17 and she was 21. And he was so good at talking and so good at wooing her that they got married in 1949. And they moved to Indianapolis. He became a student pastor in the Methodist Church in 1952. But he chose to found his own church, People's Temple, in 1956. He had a hand in integrating the black community with the white community in Indianapolis. He would go to a restaurant with his wife and a few black friends. The restaurant would refuse to serve Jones and his guests when Jones pointed out that there was plenty of tables, and that if the restaurant would serve his black friends, he would bring more black friends. As a business, he would get these businesses to agree to bring in black people, and then they would integrate. And then he would print flyers and stuff like that for those businesses. So he became kind of like a hero for the black people in Indianapolis, which is kind of sad. He betrayed all those black people in the end because I think 75% of the church was black, elderly people.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them too that had disabilities too. They were I was telling you when we were doing the pre-interview last week. OJ's mother worked at a mental institution. I think it was in San Francisco, that area there. And Jim Jones would take those people, and also too, he would have them sign over their disability checks to him too. He would foster those people out of these mental institutions, these foster homes and stuff. I think he even had a contract with the state to take in foster kids. What an operation this guy had.
Yeah, his wife was a inspector of nursing homes for the state of California. So, you're right. He would con these people, take their houses, and just say to them, like, I'll take care of everything for you. He'd take care of their dental care, their medical care, as long as they provided their house and like, I think it was like 75%, maybe like 50% of their salary. He would look after them in a community like that. That's sort of what he did to get all that money. In the end, he had millions of dollars in different bank accounts and stuff like that.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
And the survivors didn't get a whole lot. The money paid for the huge aircraft that brought all the caskets back from Georgetown, Guyana to Dover Air Force Base. So I think it was like $5 million that operation cost to bring 900 and some people back to Dover Air Force Base, which was across the country, because most of those people were from California. So then they had to hire funeral homes to pick up the bodies and bring them back to California. So eventually, for the 250 children, they California with all those people, all those children, and some people, and they have like a wake every November 18th on the anniversary of this event. So,
I interviewed one of the women who survived, and came back on the plane. A couple of things. Mark Lane came back on his own private plane. He didn't come back with all the other survivors. Mark Lane was notorious for for his work in the Kennedy research. Many people see him as a hero.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't. Also, too, she said that they were kept on the airport tarmac, I guess you call it, right, on the runway. When the plane landed in America, they were kept on that plane for like 12 hours. They weren't allowed off the plane because they all had to be debriefed and stuff like that. But Mark Lane just landed, just do whatever he wanted, just walked away. So it makes you wonder, right?
He had an affair with one of the women in the People's Temple.
Mark Lane?
Terry Buford, her name was. Yeah.
Oh, really?
He when she was trying to escape the People's Temple, he put her in an apartment somewhere, like it was around Washington somewhere.
Really?
Washington, D.C. Yeah. And also, Laura Johnston Cole, the woman you interviewed, is no longer with us anymore. She passed away.
Yeah.
And I believe David Kahn passed away, too, the other guy you interviewed.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, he was old when I first interviewed him. Yeah. Yeah. Right-wing trip there. He had his own theories going on,
Yeah, I remember listening to that one. Yeah, he wasn't a big fan of Barack Obama, from what I remember.
Yeah.
But let's see here. So he's in Indianapolis. People would come to him with their problems. They'd say, the black people would come to him with their problems, and they'd say, my power bill is way too much, or my phone bill is way too much, and they're just kind of charging me more than what they should, or they're not fixing things. And he would go fix problems for people. That was sort of what he did. He would just stand there and say, like, tell me about your problems, and they would just come up to him with their problems. He'd write them all down, and then he'd spend the whole time with all the problems. So in the beginning, if he didn't do what he did, he was kind of a decent guy, I guess,
What about that stuff you see? I guess the only time I really saw it was on a TV show when that 2-part miniseries where he would sell monkeys door to door. Is that true?
Yeah. The one lady, there was this one lady that he had an ad out in the paper saying that he would help. I think it was something like he would help people that have monkeys or something like that. And this one lady who got into his church said that he took her monkey in or something like that, and she became a member of the church. And I think that from what I remember, he did have a whole bunch of monkeys. He even had a chimpanzee in the end at Jonestown that they shot, I guess. And one thing I found out was that when they were putting the caskets together to bring him back to the Air Force Place, they put the monkey in the casket, the chimpanzee, so that when the medical examiners would open up the casket, they get a big surprise. That was one of the jokes they did over there. It was a pretty bad operation. They were just trying to, probably deal with their PTSD, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I think he ordered some monkeys from Africa, or chimpanzees, and they got sick on the way here, and I think he left them at the airport or something like that. So the airport people had to deal with them. But yeah, he was an interesting guy, and he ended up adopting a black baby, the first baby. he adopted in Indianapolis, first baby. Said, "Oh, that's a African American child." And then Jim Jones just said, "No, I want that baby," and he called him James Warren Jones Jr. He eventually would have his own son with Marcelin, Stephen, and he would adopt a Korean baby boy named Lou, and I think 2 females. One died in a car accident, which was a kind of weird car accident, but the other one, I think, survived the whole incident because she left.
Why was it a weird car accident?
From what I remember, Marcelin Jones had a dream that the baby was in the room, or that the child was in the room next door, and the next room over. And Marcelin had a dream that the baby was okay, and that the baby had actually started talking about a brother that Jim Jones hadn't adopted yet. Jim Jones came home from the hospital after the car accident, and he just told his wife, "Yeah, she's gone. Like, look in the bedroom; she's not there anymore." And then Marcelin was like crying and stuff like that because she actually thought she was alive because she had a dream, because they both sort of had like these kind of like metaphysical gifts in a way, is what they thought they had, type thing. That they could sort of just imagine things that would be true and stuff like that. But she ended up passing away in a different temple member was driving the vehicle, and they got in a car accident, and I guess it was raining a whole lot and stuff, but that's how they lost that one child.
And where was this, in the States or in Guyana?
That was in, I think it was in around the Indianapolis area.
Okay.
But they eventually moved to California, Redwood Valley, because he read an article that like the 8 places in the world that would survive a nuclear attack, because there was a Cold War going on. And one of them was Ukiah. Another one was Belo Horizonte, South America, Brazil. He went down there for like a year, I think, and he taught English to the kids there. And he came back with a story saying that that a really rich woman paid him like $5,000 to have sex with her. And this was in order to feed some orphans down there. So he came back with this story. But there was a different pastor that was taking over the church in America, and he got all paranoid and he wanted to come back. So he eventually came back to Redwood Valley. Let me see here. So eventually he came back to Redwood Valley. His son eventually overdosed on 14 Quaaludes, I think it was, because he just left his drugs everywhere. He eventually said to his lawyer, Tim Stone, he's like, give me your hand, I'll give you some amphetamine, I'll give you some pills, which he thought were amphetamines. Because he's like, yeah, you look tired, I'll give you something. And then Tim Stone was like, no, I don't want that.
You know, interesting that son you mentioned, he was part of the basketball team, so he wasn't there when all the shooting and the suicides and killings were going on. So he survived. But you can hear, and he does some interviews. You can hear, there's a YouTube video of him where you could hear him torturing people. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah. he wasn't a very nice guy in Guyana. He wasn't a very nice guy at all. He was. He actually had a chance to kill his father. He was killing his father many times, and basically, like, him and his dad went out in the rainforest, and his dad got into some quicksand. Jim Jones did, and he almost let him just stay there and die, but he got him out. But yeah, there's a guy named Vernon Gosney. He passed away too, but he talks about how Stephen Jones is a really mean guy down in Guyana. There was
Matt, it sounds kind of like it sounds sometimes with your audio that you're moving around a little bit. Try and talk directly into the phone.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But yeah, no, there was a lot of abuse down there in Guyana. He chained these two boys together that tried to escape. He let them be chained together. I think he chained them together for like 72 hours or something like that. He also would drug people and put them into a special victim unit, he called it. He drugged women that he wanted to sleep with. He had these nurses that would do that. He ordered the cyanide, saying that he was going to be a gold jeweler or something like that, because cyanide cleans gold.
Yeah.
And yeah, they tested out the cyanide on the pigs first, is what they did. They had a pig farm down there. They had a chicken farm. They tried to have an agricultural project down there. It was sort of failing, but they did try to do it. But
let me answer this, Matthew Winacott. Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Now, wasn't there also too that the members, the church members down there, that they would get medical examinations all the time, like frequent?
Yeah, they got medical examinations very frequently. They had they had a doctor down there. They had nurses. They actually birthed babies down there. I think 10, 12 babies were born down there, something like that. Their hospital care got so good that the Guyanese people would just leave babies at their gate. They would take these babies in and raise them. I think it was something like 10 to 20 Guyanese babies died in the incident. But yeah, they found enough medication down there afterwards, enough barbiturates to sedate a town of like 10,000 people, even though it was a town of like 900 people. So there are theories like that they were getting drugged every day. One of their last meals was cheese sandwiches, and they always used to put the drugs in the cheese sandwiches. So they would have suicide drills. He would give them wine to drink and say that they're going to die in 45 minutes. He tried to get one of his ladies he was sleeping with to get her pilot license so they could fly a plane across the Pacific Ocean and crash it. He had all these ways of trying to kill these people. Eventually he succeeded because Leo Ryan went down there. Excuse me. And Leo Ryan went down there trying to see what's going on, because the relatives were concerned about their families. The families could not communicate. And when they did get communication, it was just very, very weird. It was not how the person would talk. The only communication they had out of there was a ham radio. So there wasn't a whole lot of communication, and Jim Jones controlled all of the communication. it took a lot to get 900 people from California to Guyana. It almost happened overnight. Actually, it happened over a period of a year. There was about 20 guys that went down in 1974. Tim Snowen, his lawyer, arranged with the Guyanese government to go down there. And they put it up in the kind of with the border. They put it right up against the border of Venezuela almost, because Venezuela was trying to get territory in Guyana, and Venezuela had a very large army, and Guyana had a very small army. So they thought if they put these 900 American people down there, that Venezuela would stop trying to encroach on their area.
So, Matt, I've heard two versions. The one is that they came down there and they took over some property that had been used by the CIA to train guerrillas. And another version I heard is that, no, when they got down there, the property, the land was totally undeveloped. And so what did you come up with?
Basically, what I heard was is that it was totally undeveloped.
Yeah.
Basically, Jim Jones went down there with a group of American Indians and South American Indians, and they had to cut through the forest with machetes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they eventually got to an area that was about maybe the size of a golf green, like the green on a golf course or something like that. And that was like the basic size that they had. But there had been, to my knowledge, nobody that had tried it out yet. But I did hear some stories about some different groups that were down there that Guyana had tried. That I think it was like another kind of cult type thing, but I can't quite remember exactly what that was about. But I think afterwards, after this whole incident happened, they had all these houses down there, and they had to decide what they were going to do with them. And I think they may have put a different culture in there. I can't quite remember what it was. Maybe the one that you're talking about. Refugees, I think it was. But eventually all those houses burnt down. Somebody burned them all down. And there's nothing there anymore. It's just all overgrown. There's a tractor there that they used to tow the trailer to the trailer that the killers were on. So they killed Leo Ryan. They killed a bunch of newspaper reporters and some NBC film men. There's probably 2.5 hours of stock NBC footage they got out of it that you can watch online on YouTube. It shows the night before. It shows them having a gathering, last meal type thing. People were dancing. They had a really good choir, a really good musical choir. Very talented people. They put out a CD that you can listen to on YouTube as well. You can also find this stuff on San Diego State University website. Is where they have most of this archival material for Jonestown and Jim Jones, People's Temple. Yeah, there was he had a lot of power in California as well. He eventually he had a private audience with Rosalind Carter. He had some stuff to do with getting George Moscone elected. He had a lot to do with the politics in San Francisco. He had a lot to do with. There was even a testimonial dinner to his honor, a very fancy dinner where he was friends with the John Birch Society. They came up. He was friends with the Black Panthers. He was friends with the American Indian movement. Dennis Banks, Angela I forget what her last name is, Angela Davis.
Yeah, Angela Davis. Yeah,
he was friends with. Yeah, he was friends with a lot of people. Yeah, it was a pretty amazing time to be a part of. But the people that joined, like they were doing a lot of good work. They did a lot of good work in California. They helped a lot of people, but it would have ended eventually because they were losing. I think it was 300,000 American dollars a month to feed all those people. They only had I think they had like 10 million in the bank, so that whole operation would have ended at some point. So I think he saw that, and I think he's like, well, might as well just commit what he called revolutionary suicide. He gathered everybody all into the pavilion. He got the babies to go first. The nurses got the babies to go first because he knew once he killed the 250 babies that the adults would have nothing to live for anymore. So the nurses, shot these babies in the mouth with cyanide, with syringes and stuff. And a lot of the people down there, like Leslie Mutu, the medical examiner for Guyana, saw that there was injection marks on people's shoulders. There was injection marks on their face. Anywhere they can stab a needle into, they injected them with. I forgot to mention about this custody battle. He was in a custody battle with his attorney, Tim Stone. Jones got Tim Stone's wife pregnant, Grace Stone, and they had this baby. His name was John Victor Stone, and so there was a huge custody battle. Jones had this baby down in Guyana, and Tim Stone and Grace Stone were trying to get the baby back. And that's what happened. And it started trying to protect this baby. And he was willing to kill everybody to protect this baby. And he eventually killed everybody. He was found with a gunshot wound to the head. He did not take the cyanide, and I think it was because he saw how painful it was to be killed by cyanide, because cyanide attaches to your cyanide basically starves you for oxygen, and it attaches to your hemoglobin with more force than oxygen would, so it just takes over your whole body, and then it sort of starves your whole body. And so Mark Lane and Charles Gary were two lawyers. They were actually, Jones told them to get down into one of the huts there, and those guys actually hated each other. So they were huddled up together, and they hated each other. Kind of funny. But eventually Jim Jones told Tim Carter and two other guys to carry these suitcases full of gold and money to the embassy, Soviet embassy. Yeah, but it was so heavy that they just had to drop it. And they had a kind of a base in Georgetown where the people would stay before they went to Jonestown. They even had a ship, I guess, too. They had a ship that went from Miami to the Gulf, or to the river, the Port Kaituma River entrance into the Atlantic Ocean, and they would go in that way as well. So the ship would dock in Port Kaituma. But anyways, back in that house, there was a woman there that was close to Jim Jones that killed her 3 children. There was this one guy who was kind of...
Wait, we're telling me that she slit their throats, right?
Yeah, they slit their throats, and they slit their own throats. And the basketball team, Stephen Jones and Jim Jones Jr. They found these people. They were passed on, and the Guyanese Jim Jones Jr. said that he had fallen asleep that night, and then he woke up with a gun in his face. The Guyanese had thought that he did it, or they also thought that Stephen Jones did it. Stephen Jones actually told them that he did it, that he killed them. And he was in Guyanese jail for a couple months, Stephen Jones was. And there was also this guy, that special needs guy, that tried. He just sort of made a little indent on their neck. He didn't actually do anything, but he was in jail for a long time. Larry Layton was in jail for a long time until 2001. He's the one that kind of, the conspiracy, the United States government kind of pinned it all on him, because he got arrested for killing Leo Ryan. So he actually got released. I think it was in 2001. He might have been one of Bill Clinton's final pardons or something like that. Yeah.
Well, what about you hear Jones on the recordings talking about Dwyer? Get Dwyer out of here. Many thought he worked for the State Department, and many people thought he was CIA. What did you come up with on that?
Excuse me. He worked for the embassy, I think. He did inspections of the town site. From what I've read, is that Jim Jones was so out of it on drugs that he was actually trying to speak to Mark Lane and Charles Gary. He actually thought they were Dwyer, maybe, and he told. But yeah, Richard Dwyer, he was named as a CIA agent. He did a lot of stuff in the Middle. I read his interview one time. He did a lot of stuff in the Middle East. He did a lot of stuff for the CIA, I think. I'm not exactly sure what he all did, but yeah, there is a theory that Jim Jones was a CIA agent who was kind of in cahoots with Dwyer and that Dan Mitrione guy. Can't quite remember what he did, but he was sort of like a CIA guy, right?
Oh, yeah. We did a whole show with Joe Green, who is a very established researcher, and just about Dan Mitrione. And one of the things he told me is when Mitrione died, they had a funeral for him, and Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra showed up to do this eulogy for him. Wow. So, yeah, the guy had juice, man, that's for sure. Dan Mitrione had juice. So we did a whole show about him. Maybe I'll replay that show this week with Joe Green. But you were also telling me, too, about Jones was fascinated by Father Divine, right, in Philadelphia, black preacher, right?
Yeah, he met Father Divine. Father Divine was a sort of like a Jim Jones, except kind of like a African American version, I guess. He had a whole bunch of white women as his kind of inner circle, as did Jones. Every woman that Jones slept with, he placed in a position of authority, basically. Sort of what Father Divine did as well. Father Divine had a wife called Mother Divine, and I believe she was an African American woman. But Mother Divine died, and then he took on a wife that was probably like 30, 40 years younger than what he was, and she was like 22 or something like that. So he said that Mother Divine spirit went in, the Mother Divine from the old Mother Divine spirit went into the new Mother Divine, so that's how he got away with kind of having sex with younger women and stuff like that. So Jim Jones met him in Philadelphia. He sent a whole bus of you know how we used to have those Greyhound buses, and he'd go across in America and go visit different communities. He went to Philadelphia, and he met Father Divine. Actually, no, he met Mother Divine because Father Divine had died. And he tried to, while he was there, he tried to take over her parishioners. He tried to get all of her people to come in his buses back to California, and she basically told him to get the F out, basically.
Yeah, one of the women I interviewed used to talk fondly about those bus trips. You know, the way she described it, she was very happy with the church. You know,
they used to basically got to see the country for free. I remember her talking about that. He was a bus driver for them, Laura Johnson Cole.
Right.
She talked about going. They would make like a bed inside of the compartment where they keep the suitcases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they would take turns driving the buses. And Jim Jones actually, there's a documented evidence and she actually mentioned this in an interview that he basically kind of took advantage or raped a woman in one of those buses. Her name was Deborah Layton. He was basically drunk, and he came in, and he said, "Don't get off the bus." He let everybody else off the bus to use a bathroom. He told her, "Don't get off the bus." He came up to her, smelling like liquor, and he was like, "Well, we're not supposed to drink in this people's temple," and he's drinking. That's weird. He had a whole suite in the back of the bus. He had his own room with like coolers and fridges and stuff, and basically he took advantage of her back there, and then he made her part of the inner circle. He made her part of the planning commission. She was the one that Leo Ryan wrote to the House of Representatives and had an affidavit saying that there was suicide drills in Jonestown. Leo Ryan was really nice to her, and there's a few other representatives that were nice to her, and they were thinking about going, but Leo Ryan was the only one that went. He was a relentless seeker of publicity, apparently. He went up to Newfoundland and threw his body in front of a seal because he didn't want the Inuit up there to hunt seals. So he was kind of a interesting guy. He spent time in a jail for 10 days to see what the prison systems were like. So he was a unique character, Leo Ryan. It's too bad that he passed away, but he also wanted to shut down the CIA.
Yeah, his staffer came out publicly and said that he was very suspicious about the whole suicides and then about the whole operation up there in Guyana.
Yeah, his staffer was Jackie Spear. She was a representative for a long time. She got shot 3 times. She talks in the media. She talks in the media and stuff like that. She got shot 3 times. But when that whole settlement, when the money got divided, I think she got like, $50,000 or $100,000 from the settlement from like the People's Temple's money that they had. But the survivors got like $8,000 or something like that, just enough to pay for the funerals of the people that they knew and stuff. So kind of sad. But you know what, Ed? I think my voice is giving out here a little bit. But
well, we're almost at the end anyway. So let me ask you a quick question. What about you hear this story by one of the survivors that she said that Jim Jones, his passport was it was active in 2 different locations. That he had 2 passports and both passports were active in different countries. Did you ever hear that story?
I've heard that. I think I've heard that on your show, Ed. I've also heard on your show, I think I think he had different bodyguards that would step in for him and stuff, but there was clones of him type thing or something, or like, doubles of him. And he I think I forgot to mention that there was sort of a fear after this all happened that there was like
hit squads,
kind of like hit squads. Yeah. There was a couple that changed their name because they were so afraid of Jim Jones. They eventually got killed in 1981, I think it was. And I think it was their son that killed them, though. But there was another lady that was high up in Jim Jones's organization. I think her name was Paula. Can't remember her last name, but the Guyanese ambassador to the United States, Lawrence Mann, his name was, actually murdered her and their child. I think it might have been in 1981. And there was also a guy that was a spokesman for the People's Temple. He would appear in like newspaper articles and stuff, and appear on TV for them and stuff like that. He eventually gathered all these media type guys into a room, and he told them all the different good things about Jim Jones, what Jim Jones and the People's Temple did, how they help people get off drugs, how they help people basically live in a socialist environment, kind of a utopia on earth, I guess is what he called it. He committed suicide in the bathroom, the hotel room. Those are the known people that I know about that passed away after, but there was 9 days later, the mayor of San Francisco died, along with another guy who was high up in the San Francisco.
Harvey Milk and that whole operation, Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone. We've done a couple of shows on that too. Very, very. That's a bizarre operation there too. And then it was Dianne Feinstein, who went, because I actually was friends with a guy online who was some kind of cop or U.S. Marshal or court officer or something like that, who was up there at that time. And he says, you know what, man, we couldn't believe it. Feinstein goes on the news live and starts, giving away locations and stuff of where the shooter was running around there in the building there. It's just what a bizarre time, that whole episode and the month after it, like you said, just so much weird stuff went on around that whole story. But we are getting toward the end of our time here. Do you have anything else you want to share with us before we have to go?
I guess with Dianne Feinstein, the one thing I could say about her that she did for some of the survivors is that she took them out for breakfast after and just like tried to help them after this all happened.
Really?
And this was before she even became the mayor. She had no there was nothing in it for her. She just tried to help these people. So she was pretty high up in the government. So that was a pretty nice thing for a politician to do. Because I think she just retired not too long ago.
Yeah.
But
I think she checked out a while ago. Really she retired. She retired recently, but I think she checked out a while ago. She was kind of out of it there toward the end. Yeah.
The one thing I want to say is just I read an article is that there are similarities to the way Donald Trump and Jim Jones behave, and I know there's a lot of people that support Donald Trump, and I got nothing to say against him or here or there, but there are some similarities. So just be careful that I want the American people just to be careful with believing everything he says. How
about the average Canadian? How do they look at Trump?
Everybody in my family, my family is more of like a conservative family, and my father-in-law loves him. Really? Thinks he's great. I was working on an oil rig site, just doing a medic job there. I was watching the election on TV, and we saw that Trump had won the election, and the people there were just cheering and happy because they think the pipelines will get built and stuff like that, and the economy will get better and stuff like that. A lot of people love him up here.
Okay. Well, you're going to be our 51st state, and I do want to thank you for coming down and helping put out those fires there. I had a friend of mine up there in Palisades who lost her home, so thank God the Canadians came down to help us out. They didn't pour beer on it. They were actually scooping water from the ocean, pouring that water on it, like your favorite beverage up there. Matt Winacott, thank you so much, my friend. I've known you for so long. You've been such a loyal friend to the show. Check out our friend here.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Matt Winacott, gmail.wordpress.com. It's spelled Winacott. Matt Winacott. Hey, my friend, thank you so much, okay?
Thank you. Take care, Ed.
You too, my friend. Good night.